A covert arms deal sets the stage in the dead of night. The weapons dealer, Otto Krieg, grows anxious when he spots an unexpected face with his buyer. But Mickey Duca quickly smooths things over, assuring the extra man is a trusted friend. Satisfied with the cash, Otto hands over the heavy artillery. But the second the deal is sealed, the trap springs. A hailstorm of federal agents swarms the area from all sides. The driver is killed instantly, and the rest are ordered to surrender. Panic sets in. Mickey's friend makes a desperate run for it, forcing the FBI to gun him down on the spot. In the aftermath, the bodies are rolled into the morgue. But here's the twist. Otto Krieg isn't dead. He's an undercover federal agent who orchestrated the fake buy to reel in the real arms dealers. And this high-stakes operation, it was Agent Frank Castle's final mission before walking away into retirement. Cut to Frank's retirement party, where the drinks are flowing and the mood is high. But the celebration is cut short when Frank learns a terrifying truth. The young man killed in the crossfire wasn't some street-level thug. His name was Bobby Saint, the son of Howard Saint, the most ruthless money launderer and drug lord in the city. The FBI assures Frank they'll handle it, completely underestimating the monster they've just wakened up. Howard Saint isn't a man who grieves quietly. The moment he hears about his son, he pulls strings to instantly bail out Mickey from lockup. Howard's men drag Mickey to the Saint estate, fully intending to execute him. Sweating bullets, Mickey pleads for his life. He explains that Bobby insisted on tagging along to see how the mafia operates, and that it was Bobby who panicked and pulled his gun on the feds. Howard listens, then coldly executes his own bodyguard, the man he trusted to keep his son alive. Howard demands answers. He bribes everyone connected to the bust, giving them exactly 24 hours to hand over the name of the man responsible. Meanwhile, completely in the dark, Frank Castle heads out to a beautiful coastal retreat, thrilled to finally spend his days with his family. But the clock is ticking. As Howard leaves his son's funeral, a henchman hands him an envelope. The truth is inside. The arms dealer was a fake, an FBI agent who staged his own death. Howard immediately orders a hit on the agent. But for his wife, Livia, blood for blood isn't enough. She demands they wipe out Frank's entire family. Heavily armed hitmen descend on the peaceful beach. Frank is inside examining his father's old firearms when the crack of gunfire shatters the air. He rushes out to a nightmare. His relatives are dead on the ground, and the assassins are hunting down the survivors. Frank fights like a cornered wolf, but his father is gunned down. Desperate, Frank's wife Maria grabs their young son Will and sprints for the coastline. Frank tries to intercept the killers, engaging in a brutal hand-to-hand fight to the death with one of the assassins. He snaps the man's neck and continues the chase, but the hitmen open fire on Maria's truck, sending it flipping violently off the road. Miraculously, Maria crawls from the wreckage with her son. She sprints toward the Coast Guard station, screaming for help, but the assassins floor the gas and run them down in cold blood. Frank arrives just in time to watch his world end. The killers close in, riddling Frank with bullets until his gun clicks empty. To ensure he suffers, they shoot him through both legs. John Saint, Bobby's older brother, stands over Frank, striking him across the face. Seeing Frank still drawing breath, John shoots him point blank, then orders his men to burn it all down. The flames catch a massive fuel tank, and a catastrophic explosion launches Frank into the dark ocean. The hit squad walks away assuming Frank Castle is dead, but the ocean refuses to take him. Frank washes ashore, barely clinging to life, where a local fisherman finds his broken, bleeding body. Back in the city, Howard Saint is celebrating. He wiped out over 30 members of the Castle family, cementing a reputation of absolute terror that silences any opposition in his ranks. Weeks bleed by. Frank Castle heals. He returns to the scorched ruins of his family gathering. The echoes of their screams still haunt the air. The joy of his life has been replaced by an endless, suffocating sorrow. Frank takes a single memorial photograph and walks away, declining the fisherman's offer to stay. He isn't looking for peace. He's planning a war. Frank moves into a run-down apartment complex in a new city where he's a ghost. He unearths an absolute arsenal of weaponry, quietly waiting for the perfect moment to strike. His neighbors, a quirky group including Joan and Dave, notice he never sleeps. He's always building, always fixing. Joan is deeply curious about the silent man next door, but Frank remains a vault. Knowing a direct assault on the heavily guarded Saint Mansion is suicide, Frank starts his chessboard. He kidnaps Mickey. Strapped to a chair in a makeshift interrogation room, Mickey refuses to talk, so Frank fires up a blowtorch, graphically explaining how he's going to melt Mickey's skin off. Terrified, Mickey spills everything. He reveals Howard's empire is built on laundering money for the vicious Tora brothers out of Cuba. Frank gives Mickey a choice: help tear Howard's empire to the ground or be his lapdog forever. Realizing Frank won't kill him if he cooperates, Mickey flips. He tells Frank that Howard loves money and power, but his one true weakness is his wife, Livia, the very woman who ordered the massacre of Frank's family. Frank goes to work. He shadows Livia, learning her routine, noting she goes to the cinema every single Thursday. Next, he tails Quentin Glass, Howard's lethal and fiercely loyal right-hand man of 20 years. Frank uncovers a secret Quentin hides from everyone, even Howard. Quentin is gay. It's time to send a message. Frank digs up Howard's family plot and hurls the Saint tombstone straight into Howard's front yard. Howard and his men are paralyzed by the realization that Frank Castle is alive. Frank visits his old FBI colleagues, asking why the Saints haven't been touched in 5 months. When they feed him bureaucratic excuses, Frank realizes the law is dead. From now on, he is the executioner. Frank breaches Howard's heavily guarded money laundering hub. He corners the accountants, forces them to load millions of dollars into a cart, shatters the massive glass windows, and orders them to rain the cash down onto the city streets. Civilians scramble for the bills below. As Frank walks out, 2 armed guards try to stop him. He drops them instantly and vanishes. The news broadcasts the stunt, revealing Frank's tragic past to his neighbors. Howard is absolutely enraged, ordering a massive manhunt. Things get worse when the Toro brothers show up, furious. They demand $50 million in compensation for the lost cash and guarantee their business is safe. Howard loses his mind, but Quentin de-escalates, promising to hire an elite assassin who will deliver Frank's corpse in 48 hours. Back at the apartments, a drunk starts harassing Joan. Frank steps in, effortlessly disarming the man of his knife and tossing him out. He isn't playing the hero, he just doesn't want the police knocking on their door. The next day, Frank's psychological warfare escalates. He tails Livia to the cinema, breaks into her car, and steals Quentin's private phone number. He calls Quentin, blackmailing him with his hidden secret, demanding a meeting at a specific hotel. Quentin rushes there. Meanwhile, Frank parks Livia's car illegally outside that exact same hotel, gets a parking ticket slapped on the windshield, and returns the car before she notices. Simultaneously, Mickey casually mentions to Howard that he saw Quentin's car parked outside that hotel. Later, Howard overhears Quentin and Livia laughing together. The seed of paranoia takes root, violently fertilized when Quentin lies to Howard about where he was that afternoon. The physical attacks begin. While Frank eats at a diner, an odd man carrying a guitar walks in. It's Harry Heck. He plays a bizarre song, casually mentions he knows Frank, and walks out. Later, on a bridge, Harry violently rams Frank's car and opens fire with a heavy machine gun. Frank is pinned down, his car teetering. As Harry moves in for the kill, Frank fires a ballistic knife straight into Harry's neck, surviving by a razor-thin margin. Frank hits Howard's wallet again. Howard's son John is preparing a massive cash shipment when he discovers a bomb hidden inside the stacks. It detonates, incinerating millions. The Toro brothers realize their money has gone up in smoke again. An enraged Howard refuses to pay them back, permanently losing his biggest clients. Back home, Dave knocks on Frank's door begging for help. It's a ruse concocted by Joan to get Frank over for dinner. She tries to connect with him, telling him he can build new memories. Frank simply replies that he isn't the man she's looking for and walks out. But the moment Frank steps into his apartment, he's ambushed. A hulking behemoth of an assassin, known as the Russian, attacks. The fight is an absolute bloodbath. Frank unloads on the giant, even dropping a live hand grenade, but nothing stops him. The Russian smashes Frank's armory to pieces and throws him straight through the wall into his neighbor's apartment. Barely conscious, Frank grabs a pot of boiling water and hurls it into the giant's face. The horrific burns give Frank the split second he needs to finally defeat the monster before passing out from his massive injuries. Dave and Joan drag Frank's bleeding body into a hidden compartment. Minutes later, Quentin Glass arrives with a hit squad. Quentin savagely tortures Dave, ripping the piercings out of his face with pliers. But Dave and the neighbors don't say a word. Quentin leaves a single guard and departs. When Frank wakes up and realizes what his neighbors endured for him, he grabs a meat cleaver and silently executes the guard. Knowing his presence puts them in danger, Frank prepares to leave, telling Joan that the bad men have to die so the good people can live. It's time for the final checkmate. Livia goes to the cinema. Frank steals her car again, calls Quentin and demands a second meeting at the hotel, doubling the blackmail price. Quentin arrives. Mickey slips Livia's parking ticket straight into Howard's paperwork. Howard finds the ticket. The dates match Quentin's hotel visit. Howard storms over to Quentin's apartment and finds Livia's earring lying on the bed, planted by Frank. When Quentin returns, Howard attacks him with the fury of a madman, stabbing his loyal friend to death without letting him speak a single word. When Livia comes home, Howard confronts her. She screams her innocence, revealing Quentin was gay, but Howard is entirely consumed by Frank's illusion. He drags his own wife to an overpass and throws her onto the tracks of a speeding train. His inner circle destroyed, Howard puts a massive bounty on Frank's head, calling in every hitman in the city. But Frank Castle brings the war to him. Armed to the teeth, Frank infiltrates the Saint compound. He rigs the perimeter and vehicles with high explosives. Inside, Howard is throwing a lavish party. Frank unleashes hell, using bombs hidden inside champagne bottles to obliterate the guards. The mansion descends into chaos. Howard completely abandons his son, John, and runs for his life. A fleeing guard hits the outer door, triggering a massive blast. Howard barely survives. Frank corners John Saint, but instead of shooting him, he forces John's hand down onto a live landmine. The second he lets go, he dies. Frank hunts Howard down in the courtyard. He shoots Howard through both legs, bringing the crime lord to his knees. Standing over him, Frank reveals the ultimate truth. There was no affair. Frank orchestrated everything. Howard murdered his loyal best friend and his own wife for absolutely nothing. The realization crushes Howard's soul. But Frank isn't done. He ties the bleeding crime boss to the bumper of a slow-moving car. As the vehicle drags Howard across the lot, Frank triggers the explosive charges hidden under parked cars. A chain reaction of fire and steel erupts, incinerating Howard Saint in a terrifying inferno. The revenge is complete. Frank returns to his dark apartment. The adrenaline fades, leaving only a hollow silence. He pulls his gun, preparing to end his own life, but the memory of his family pulls him back. He changes his mind, accepting that his war is his new purpose. Before vanishing into the night, he tells Joan to look inside his closet once Dave is out of the hospital. When Joan finally opens the door, she finds stacks of cash, a massive fortune left behind by the Punisher, a final reward for the people who stood by his side.